So obviously, as you know, energy is all around us and we can't see it, and yet it controls everything. It controls the cells in our body, it controls our mind, it controls whether we take a left turn or a right turn. Tell me what you think energy is in terms of when you translate it to a higher power.
Hmm, that's a complicated question. What is energy as I transfer it to a higher power? I don't know if we're transferring it to the higher power or the higher power transfers it to us. That's always confusing. It seems like, especially with my upbringing, you're always going outside of yourself to find what you're looking for. I mean, essentially, that's what prayer is. Essentially, that's what worship is believing in that higher power, going outside of yourself, and then trying to receive from that higher power. That's not something that I can relate to anymore because I've long since kind of given up that idea that the higher power is the only source. And if the higher power is the only source, and I myself am a source, does that mean that the higher power is inside me anyway, and I don't have to go anywhere for it? So it's a confusing thing. I don't even know. As I get older and the more theories and philosophies I educate myself on, the scarier it gets because I don't really know who to believe. But it's all one thing I do know is that changing your vibration and changing your outlook and changing your mindset changes everything, whether it's business, family, yourself, just personal growth, um, your employment, your friends, the people you attract around you. It all stems from that. I don't know if it's necessarily the reptilian brain or your heart, but either way, it stems from something. And you can have everything you want, or you can have everything you don't want, depending on which way you feel.
So yeah, that's exactly right. People seek out to a higher self, aka not in themselves, to a higher self. And yeah, that higher self is already within them. And when you translate that into energy, it's you want to increase your energy, aka bring more of new energy to you. And you do that by purifying your own energy within. And then
Oh
you
yeah.
magnetically attract yourself to that next frequency. So if you are a negative vibration, then you're just going to always attract negative things and people around you. Whereas if you change your energy vibration and become, say, a positive vibration, higher frequency, then you will naturally magnetically attract yourself towards people who are also positively charged. And what happens when you're with positively charged people is that you're around success and love and money and happiness because those people have all of that and they don't want to be around negative people who are sad, depressed, unhappy,
Yep.
hate their life, haven't got any money. So you naturally will gravitate towards these people like a fish will start to swim towards the worm. If a fisherman hangs a hangs a worm in the rod, all the fish swim towards it.
I agree. I agree. But I will say that there is a very dangerous slope that I have found in my life that comes with that philosophy. And basically, what it means is that if your level of fear is even 1% bigger or grander or deeper than your level of faith, the whole it turns the whole ship around. It sinks the whole ship. And what's funny is that, us talking about this now, I remember watching The Secret when I was about 26 years old, which is about when that movie came out. And I had already been dabbling in Buddhism a little bit, so I had been chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo for a while. So the movie The Secret to me felt like a ripoff of Buddhism, and yet it was a really good movie, and it really did change a lot of people's lives. But I think one thing that it did for me was that because it made me believe that the power of my mind was so strong, I got so wrapped up in doing different things to try to change the direction of my life, to try to change the course of my life. So, what did that mean? That meant vision boards. That meant affirmations that meant all of these different things. And I was doing those for so long. And yet my life was just always in shit shambles. Always. Always. And what I realized when I started listening to a podcaster, and he's also a sales performance coach. His name is Jim Fortin, and he founded the Sales Psychology Academy coming out of Dallas, Texas. What he said was that that doing means nothing. It's all about being. So when we talk about mindset and mentality, that's really where it all comes from. But in order to get to that level, even that requires so much work. It's not something that a lot of people can just switch on and off and do overnight. And what Jim says is that you can actually make the law of attraction work against you. And I realized that that's what I was doing. Having watched The Secret, there's one very important part that none of the gurus and none of the influencers and none of the life coaches and motivational speakers tell you. And what that part is like I said, if you even have slightly more fear than you have your desire for success, then you are constantly going to be on that wheel running into the the same old types of men, the same old type, or should I say, opposite sex, or, if you're gay or whatever, whoever you're attracted to. You're going to run into the same type of partners. You're going to keep taking the same types of jobs. You're going to keep making the same mistakes in your business, or the mistakes in your dreams that are going to hold you back. Why? Because the universe will do what you direct it to do. And if the fear that you have in your heart, that fear of failure, that fear maybe even of success, the fear of being assaulted, the fear of being taken advantage of, being used, if that little bit of fear is even slightly deeper than the mindset you have to drive yourself forward, the universe will work against you. And it's it's hard, because you feel like, especially us conscious people, you know we're changing our diet, we're doing the yoga, we're doing the meditation, we're making the vision boards, we're writing the affirmations on the wall, we're listening to those fucking those theta music programs. We're listening to those coaches. We're listening to those transcendental meditation leaders, and yet nothing's changing. And as a matter of fact, and my life is proof of this, your life can actually become worse if you don't fully understand the law of attraction. Does that make sense to you, Oliver?
That's the crucial bit. It's understanding it. Anyone can teach you this, right? But you really have to understand it. It's like you're given a seed, but you need to already have a flower bed. If you're given a seed, there's no flower bed, then that seed is just gonna be there. And if you haven't got a flower bed to plant it, eventually you just put that seed in the drawer somewhere and go back to work, go back to your normal life. Now, it's so true. Everyone wants to say the ideal successful life. Not everyone gets it. I truly believe that people are born a certain default frequency based on their parents and their grandparents and the knowledge and the stuff around them. If, for example, that life is made up of negative people and positive people, and you've got, say, 99 negative vibrations in you, but one is positive, that is a seed that can sprout. And you could learn all this stuff, and that seed might just be enough to create a forest. But if you haven't got even one seed, for example, you have no idea about any of this stuff, and then Bob Proctor sees you in the street and says, "Hey, come to my event and do this and do that and do this and do that and do this and do that," it's not going to change anything because you never had that seed in the first place. And yeah, you could say that in order to, as somebody who wants to create these types of packages, in order to make your money, you need to submit it to 100 people and three end up making it. But those three had the seed in them. The other
Mm-hmm.
97 people is just the extra money. And it's not, well, if you know these people aren't going to succeed, why take their money? It's not about that. You have to plant loads of seeds in order to get some flowers back. It's just how it works. Otherwise, no one's going to have any money and life. What's the point of living? So you shouldn't have guilt, but it's true. If you don't already have that slight drive, or a grandmother said when you're younger, you can do anything you want in life. If you've never had that, anybody can bring you the secret of the law of attraction. You may hear, oh, if I get a vision board, this will happen. But the reality is that if you can't lead your own train yourself, and you always need a driver, when that driver's not there, you're stranded. So you have to learn to drive the train. And if you haven't already got a train license, it doesn't matter who teaches you, who sits in the passenger seat, you're not going to go anywhere. And so many people are learning it without the license. They are jumping on board a train, somebody's driving them, they're thinking, oh, this is lovely. Look at the countryside, look at the sea, look at the stars, look how fast the train goes, look at nature. And they forget that as soon as that driver isn't there, they're stuck. And too many people haven't got
Absolutely.
the license themselves, which is why so many people are not likely to succeed, no matter how much they do it, because they haven't been exposed to that belief in the first place. They are so full of fear and everything going wrong that their life is built upon that. And if you want to change, you have to knock down your whole life. And they don't know where they're going without these mentors and people, because once the seminar ends, who do you go
Yep.
to? No one. So you
Exactly.
need to have your own ability, your own voice in your head to guide you, whether it's a father, a mother, a grandma, a neighbor, a cousin. Somebody needs to guide you. But more importantly, you need to have a little bit of knowledge yourself to work things out yourself. Otherwise, you'll
Oh
be
yeah.
forever dependent on these people. And when you spend 5 grand on the course and he's not there anymore, what the fuck do you do? You don't know what to
Oh
do. So you
yeah.
go back to your normal life.
Well, that's, I mean, 2 points to that. I mean, first of all, Tony Robbins will admit all the time that he knows most of his followers don't follow his program. That's why he keeps coming up with new ones. That's why they keep repackaging in the coaching community, they keep repackaging the same old song and dance because they know it has to have a different appeal. This one's for business, this one's for real estate, this one's for success, this one's for love, this is the new 2020 version, this is this package, this pack. They're selling all of these courses, and they know that once those courses are purchased, they're not actually being implemented, which is why they continue to get the repeat customers and why I really, really love Jim Fortin, as I mentioned earlier, because he is the only coach that I've really met out there that gets people off of the cycle. Because, and this goes to point number two, I love how you brought up the analogy of the flower bed. It's not just, having about even having one good seed. It almost feels like, at least in my life, even having that one good seed is not enough. You have to examine the condition of the soil. That's huge. And that's the part of self reflection and accountability that I don't think a lot of people look at. And that's the hardest part that I have to deal with. And I think it's the hardest step for everyone. Where we can have the seed, but let's look at the condition of the soil. Am I flooding myself with mindless entertainment? Am I flooding myself? Am I dividing my attention between me and a bunch of other stupid shit? Am I letting friends waste my time? Am I letting romantic interest waste my time? Am I aligning myself with people who aren't on my vibration? Am I not able to protect myself from the negativity and the toxicity of the world? Am I not cleaning up my own toxicity? See, because there's going to be some weeds in that flower bed if we don't clean up the soil as well. And that's the really hard part. That's the part that, as far as the law of attraction goes and what I thought was my understanding of it, I mean, that's old news to me. That's yesterday's news. The Buddhism, the chanting, the focus, that's all yesterday's news. None of that is going to matter if there's still a toxic element to my soil, if there's still like a self-sabotaging element in my soil. And that's the next step. That's where you go from that's where you go from law of attraction 101 to advanced.
So that right, have right, without Jesus, and then you have an abusive husband with Jesus. Every time he hits you, you go to Jesus and you don't get rid of the husband. That's the same as
Mm-hmm.
learning the law of attraction and not understanding why you want to learn the law of attraction and how you're trying to get out of your pattern. It's just you're reading The Secret after he hits you, so you're not understanding. You like I know from experience, right? When I learned all of this stuff, that I had to go back into the past completely and reset everything. You can't just kind of like you're on the motorway in a car, okay, and all of a sudden there's a sign that says this way to the zoo. You can't just take a detour, okay. You can't just take a detour. Why? Because let's just say that you only packed up enough food and drink for that day, and you go to the zoo, and then the zoo takes you to the bird world, and the bird world takes you to the theme park, and then the theme park takes you to whatever. You've only got enough food and water for that day out. And yet you're now only going to need more food and water for all these other events. You have to go back home, okay, and then get the food and water you need, and then go down that motorway, and then go off to the zoo. So many people suddenly want to change their life and just suddenly jump in and change. And that's not how it works, because you've come down a path already, right? And that is a path of your whole life, your family's path, your whole childhood path. You can't just switch paths midway because you're still on the wrong path. You've got to go back in time and understand why you were down this path and how you got here. Grandmother told your parents this and they told you this, but they didn't understand what you know now. Switch paths and rebuild. When I started this journey, I literally binned everything in my room. I wiped my laptop, wiped my phone. I said goodbye to all my friends. I deleted all my social medias. I went back in time and understood all the knowledge that I was taught from my parents, like should you eat chicken if it isn't 100% cooked, like restaurants always say, and like to understand, well, why is that? And it's not that you can't eat it if it's not 100% cooked. It's more it protects companies from getting fined from fucking retards not cooking it properly. So
Right.
stuff like that. I had to dissect everything. Like if you get a cold, if you go outside when you're wet, stuff like that. You can't just suddenly jump into creating a new life when you're already kind of defaultly built from
Mm-hmm.
old building work. It's like if you've got a house, right, that was made from the 1800s and it's still got asbestos in, you can't just like put some new bricks and new roofs and redo the beam in the garden because the whole foundation is still made from asbestos. You've got to knock it all down and start again. And if you've got to knock it all down and start again, you might as well have not bought that house because it's worthless. The money is when you just kind of continue where you left off. But if you've got to knock it down anyway, you might as well have just bought some new land and start again. And so people who want to suddenly have this new life, they just like decide one morning that they want this life. And you have to understand that if you're 40 years old, you've got to go back in time and undo 40 years worth of stuff,
Uh,
aka hence why 97% of people in the audience they get all hyped and he comes on stage and anyone for that matter, me,
right.
Ty Lopez, whatever, it's the hype. I truly believe that from experience. If you follow the other animals to the lake to find food and you're not going off and finding your own lake, you are forever going to be dependent on somebody else. What I mean by that is you won't have to go through all of these packages. You just create your own.
Right.
People who have to listen to all these packages, they're forever going to the next package, the next Tony Robbins one, the next Ty Lopez one, the next this, the next that. You're forever going around in circles in hope that it might be stocks and shares that might make it for you, or it might be
Mm-hmm.
drop shipping, or it might be Amazon, or it might be YouTubing. If you have to follow and try and get somebody to tell you what's next. You haven't got the brain to create. Anyone who ends up making it goes right when all the animals go left. I'm the
Yeah.
one who goes and finds my own stream when I don't know where the fucking stream is, where everyone else goes left to a stream that they know exists. If you have to learn how to make it through somebody else, and yes, mentors are good because they inspire you and they inspired me to get me on that path. But if you're not thinking, fuck this guy, I can do it myself, like for example, if you're not in that kitchen thinking, why the fuck am I working for this guy? I should be creating my own business. You haven't got what it takes to run your own business. You
Yep.
haven't got what it takes to create a life of management, leadership, organization, order, people skills, sales, marketing yourself. If you are going around in circles following how to make it, you should already instinctively know how to make it. And if you don't care about whether you know or not. You're just going to jump in that car and you're going to drive and you'll figure it out along the way. And that is about 1% of humans who end up
Mm-hmm.
creating. And that's the same as tribes and presidents of countries before they were countries. How many countries are there? 300. That means there was 300 leaders of small tribes that grew to really big. How many humans are there? 8 billion. How many countries? 300. So if you divide 300 leaders by 8 billion humans, you're talking less than the percent. 1% you can lead and create and manage people. That is why
Right.
so many people never make it, because they hear the dream, they want the dream, but it's not as simple as just creating it. I know from someone who's very capable the struggle that I had to get me on this path, let alone somebody who doesn't even have the knowledge that I know. I've got all the knowledge, but I still have to
Mm-hmm.
find the path. So people who don't
Right.
have the knowledge and don't have the path, they are fucked. And there's no point even going down that path, because genetically your vibration is not strong enough to get you there. And then
Right.
if you, for example, want a mix of CEOs and you're shy, you may have a little drop shipping company, negotiate and tell them when they're wrong and handle eye contact. There's just no hope. It's all a fad. It only makes people richer, the people who buy into all these packages. If you are really going to make it, you won't need these packages. Like me,
Right.
you just go and do it yourself,
Right. Right. Right.
sadly.
Right. And whew, this is what we do in America at a poetry lounge when somebody says something powerful. We go like that. So, wow. Ooh, that vibration, man, that's everything. That's everything. That's everything. And, you talked about having to undo all those years of programming, and I'm doing it now. I mean, I can't say that I've arrived. I mean, obviously not. I'm not where I want to be, but I look at the foundation that I'm building of my character, and that is what really gets me excited right now. And they say, the journey is all the fun, and it really is. Like diving deeper into myself and figuring out, where does this thought pattern come from? Why do I believe what I believe? Like you said, there's so many things that our parents have, maybe, even if they didn't lie to us about it, they definitely gave us misinformation about it, because they were given misinformation. And I'm starting to see and undo all of those little pieces and see all of these patterns. And it's astounding to me how much work it is. It's astounding to me the um, how minute the impact can be. So, like, I know this is going to sound totally stupid to you, but to me, it's kind of funny. There was a I did not have my own television until in my adult life. And mind you, I'm 38, until 2017. 2017 was when I bought my first television and got cable. I didn't know how to use the remote. I didn't know how to use the remote. I had been watching TV on my laptop, watching TV on my computer, Netflix, Hulu for years. So I knew how to watch TV on a computer. But in my adult life at 35 or 36 or whenever that was, I didn't know how to use a remote. Why? Because when I was a little kid, my dad always had the remote. I never could use the remote. So either I forgot how to use it or I never really learned how to use one, and I had to relearn how to use a fucking remote. And it seems so small and so minute. But when you apply that to your spending habits, your saving habits, the way that you interact with friends, the way that you interact with dates and romantic partners, all of this is either lack of knowledge or the example that we've been shown, which could be a good example or a poor example. But all of it, you have to go back and you have to question everything. The way you drive, the way you talk, the way you dress, it all comes from somewhere. So, yeah, you have to rip it up from the foundations. And if you have to rip it up from the foundations, you might as well just start anew anyway. And I love that. I love that. And I'm glad. It takes a certain amount of fearlessness and maturity to be able to look in the mirror, and then not only look in the mirror as to who you are now, but look in the mirror with your family. Like, wow, there's some serious. I'm just now discovering there's some serious generational curses going on in my family. From my grandfather, who was a POW, came home to be an alcoholic. I'm just finding out about how viciously abusive he was to my grandmother. I'm just now finding out about things about my mother in her childhood that she never told me, things about my aunts and uncles in their childhood that I never knew about. I'm just now finding out that. And now I'm looking at my generation and then my daughter's generation. And it's like, oh, okay, now I see where all the toxicity has trickled down the pipe. Okay, so we need to wipe it here. We need to clean it here. So it's actually a fun and exciting, as well as it is painful. It's actually fun to be like, okay, now instead of listening to all these other outside influences telling me all I got to do is become a vegan and meditate, and that's going to change everything for me. Oh, now I can really go in with a fine tooth comb and with my little toothbrush and my soap and really clean those little places that I never knew even had dirt on them.
So, so essentially, right, you have to, well, people have to understand that we are made up of our past, the foundation, and basically, if you want a change in your life, that means you have been exposed to the possibility of change. But it doesn't mean that you can change, right? So most people, they will hear about another life, right? And if they're unhappy, then they will seek that. Happy people, as boring as their life may be to someone like us who wants success and money, they're happy. So they're the ones who are winning. We are the ones who are not winning because we are unhappy, and happiness is the winning formula,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Right.
take away, so put all that dependent, normal, 9 to 5, boring family, marriage people in a box. 97% of people, right? If they are happy going to job and they might die young, they might get disease, they might be fat, they might have issues, but they are happy in their life, whatever. Don't poke the bear unless you can fight him. Don't stick a stick in the bee's nest unless you can run. Right? So if these people who have got a family, a marriage, a mortgage, they've got 6 kids, they've got cousins and uncles and aunties, right? They are all following the same pattern. They're all from the same foundation. If that husband suddenly realizes that he's not his full potential in terms of vibration, it means he's got to divorce his wife, leave his kids, sell the house. His parents will understand what the fuck he's doing. His grandparents will hate that. You'll poke the bear. You'll put your finger in the bee's nest. It'll disrupt everything. All for what? Because he wanted to live this life of success and harmony, whatever. And you never hear stories like that. Because if you have that lifestyle anyway, that's all you've ever known. Everyone at school had that lifestyle, 9 to 5, job, marriage, mortgage, come home. All your friends will like it, or your neighbors will like it. That is all you know. So when people like me speak about, healing and empowerment and enlightenment, we're not speaking to the 8 billion humans on the planet. We are speaking to the like less than 1% of people who have been exposed to this through grandparents, parents, friends, stuff they've read online. And my job, for example, is to get them down that path. It's to push them as far down that path as possible that they are far enough that they can take their own selves down that path. You can't baby feed, you can't baby spoon people something that they don't want to feed themselves. And so
Absolutely.
when you teach people all this knowledge, you're just like kind of aligning them true north. They need to have the north, right, which is I want to know how to get here, and you teach them and you go true north. But if somebody's going south and you're saying you need to go north, okay, as soon as you go, they're going to go south because that's all that they know. Um so what I'm saying is this, that if you are exposed to this other life, it means that somewhere in your life and in your family, you have been told the other life, which is if you have a dream, create it. There's more to life than struggling and financial stuff. Okay. Even if it's one uncle out of, say, loads of cousins, loads of aunties, loads of grandparents and stuff, you've been exposed to that seed, for example. And with proper nurturing and watering and soil, that seed can grow. But if you don't have the knowledge about what the soil should be like and the temperature should be like and whether the wind needs to be cool or whether you need to have soil, if you don't know the extra knowledge, then you aren't going to be able to make that seed grow. So now it's like, well, how do I get access to that knowledge about the soil conditions and the temperature conditions and the wind conditions? You have to search it. And as you said, searching that takes time, because who do you go to find out about soil conditions? You might have to walk for days. You might have to call loads of people up, and that's just about the soil. Then you've got to find out about the temperature. Then you've got to find out about how long it takes for the seed to grow. Does it need sun? It's so much more. And that's why if
So
you've got
much more.
parents who teach you from an early stage in your life, you could be anything you want to, that these people are more likely to succeed because they've had that belief since they were very younger. Like my dad told me from 3 years old, I can do anything I want, I can be who I want, and I believe I can do anything and be anything. I've got more self belief than any human on the planet, and that was a blessing and a curse, because growing up I was different to everyone, and
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't the same I wanted to kill myself because I wasn't the same, and it was a
Yep.
struggle. It's a blessing
Yep.
and a curse. But
Yeah.
with the right nurturing, you learn soil conditions, watering conditions and temperature conditions. And now, for example, I know this, my seed can grow. I am the seed, I am the drive, but I needed to know how to make that seed grow, and that comes down to knowledge. So when I learned all this stuff, in my mindset, I had, which was like, say, 5, 6 years old, and I tried to understand all the things that happened that just played in my mind over the years. Like when Granddad came out the garage and I said, Granddad, where have you gone? He says, oh, I've just gone to get some peas. But then there was a smell of smoke. So now, from understanding and experience, I know, for example, he was probably smoking in there or having a shot of whiskey, for example. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, now that makes sense. Because now I know that that smoke used to be on his clothes all the time. And he used to say that he used to go to the pub. But really, that was probably him. And now I remember my grandma always lying and saying he's just gone out to get some fresh air and he was smoking. So now you start to remember all the things that didn't
Oh
make
yeah.
sense when you were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Why did
Yep.
your dad never let you have the remote? For example, he was watching porn and he didn't want you to suddenly press the button by mistake and see a naked lady on the screen. And you're like,
Yeah.
that makes sense. And then you think, okay,
Mhm.
well, my parents used to argue. Maybe they weren't having sex. That's what the porn was about, because they weren't having sex. Now that makes sense. And you go back
Yeah.
in time, and all the things that didn't make sense then suddenly trigger to the
Oh
front of your
yeah.
mind, and it makes sense. Or it's like, actually, I remember why. And you start to put together all the missing pieces growing up from as young as, 5, 6, 7, your earliest memory. So for me, what I did is I went back to the earliest point in my life and I tried to question all the things that happened, like things my parents said, what they were doing. I saw my dad sneak off somewhere and I said, where have you been? He says he's just been shopping, but then he had lipstick on his cheek and I never told my mum. And I was 7 years old, for example. You put all of this together.
Right. You didn't
I'm
know what
like,
it was. Yeah.
yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
you basically go back in time, repair. I called it like this, right? My whole life was a big rope and there was thousands of knots, things I procrastinated against, things I avoided, bullying I didn't cry about, grievances of deaths I didn't cry about, issues I
Ooh.
never dealt with. Every single thing that I ran from, I just kept focusing on getting out, like getting to the life, getting to heaven, right? Getting this money, getting success, and it would all be okay. And I never got there because I was being pulled back by my past, the things I didn't grieve about, the issues, the stress, the forgiveness, everything from like a
Ooh.
very young age. And I look at it like I had to literally, I avoided all the knots when they occurred, right? And I just kept moving forward in hope
Mm-hmm.
I could just snip the rope, but I couldn't because I was made
Right.
up of the past. This is why a lot of celebrities, singers and actors, they die. They have the good life and they all die from drugs. Why? Because they ran from something. They weren't
Yep.
accepted at school. In David Bowie, you could know correct all these people who are massive, Michael Jackson, these outside the box people, they live for like the life because they're getting all this energy from people, acceptance, and it all comes from at school when you weren't normal, you weren't liked, you didn't fit in.
Yes.
So you run from this, and as you get older, you've got the money, you've got the house, you've got the sex, but you're still not happy. Why? Because you never, you know, faced the abuse as a child, or you never faced the fact that you were gay growing up, or you never faced a father dying. You ran from this shit, and it catches up, and you just suddenly and you go like that. So
Yeah.
I looked at my life as a massive rope. I had thousands of knots. I had to go back in time, undo each knot. And it could be, as I said, my mum says chicken can't be cooked. You can't eat chicken unless it's 100% cooked. Why? You can't go outside unless your hair's dry. You might get a cold. If I pissed, why? You keep going back in time and you undo all those knots. You get answers for everything. You go from age 39, 38, 37, 36, 35. Something your auntie said when you were 19, and you understand, wow, she says it's better to wear a wig rather than be bald. And you're like, okay, so you just trusted her. But then you realize, okay, she's insecure and she's weak. Not her problem, not her fault, but I'm not going to not allow that to affect my ability to shave my hair.
Right, right, right.
Stuff that you never did. And
I
if you
mean,
keep
and
going
it's
back in
funny.
time, you,
It's funny how this shit, it, like you said, it even affects the way you brush your teeth, the way you groom. It's all one of those knots. Go
it's
ahead.
almost finished. So essentially, you keep undoing all the knots, and you go back to the first knot, which is often when you
Hmm.
were 5 years old, and your dad said, um, I don't know, it could be anything like you're brushing your teeth, and he says, "Shut your mouth when you're brushing your teeth because you look like a stupid retard," or something like that. And now, from that moment onwards, you brush your teeth with your mouth closed. And so now you tell your kids, brush your teeth with your mouth closed. And you don't even remember your dad telling you at 6 to brush your teeth with your mouth closed. You just, something you said, something you followed, like a computer command. It's just following the same command. And and so you have to go back in time to the very earliest knot that you can remember and get answers to all the things that you didn't get answers for. And things will flash up, as I said, something that an uncle or an auntie said. It would just be like, I never understood what they said. And we're talking like 30 years ago, but that unanswered knot is still there. And just imagine, right? You've got a 10-meter rope. Every time you tie a knot, that rope shortens because you
Hmm.
need more of that rope to make the knot. So imagine every knot reduces the rope by, say, I don't know, 2 centimeters, and you've got a 10-meter rope with 1,000 knots. That's 1,000 knots times 2 centimeters, which is, say, I don't know, 2,000 meters, which is essentially in a 10-meter rope, 2 meters off that rope. So it's 8 meters, right? Imagine that 8 meters, you are in hell. And in order to get to heaven, you need to go an extra 2 meters. But you can't because you've only got 8 meters worth of rope. Yes, you could potentially be 10 meters. And the only reason why you're 8 is because you've knotted yourself so many times. But you have the potential to get to that 10-meter by undoing all the knots and you enter heaven. Whereas at right now, you've got all these thousands of knots. You're only 8 meters. You are going to be in that hell forever. You can't just jump. You can't learn how to Tony Robbins the secret because, yes, you want there. You've been exposed to that, but you cannot get there. You have to go back in time and undo every single fucking knot. And you can't just undo 800 knots, pick and choose the knots because those extra, say, 200 knots you're not undoing because they might be a sore subject, like when the father abused you or whatever. That is still shortening your rope. And you will
Oh
only
yeah.
be, say, 9.6 meters in heaven rather than 10. And essentially, you won't be free until you undo all knots and have the rope span of 10 meters. So you have to undo every single knot. The far back you go, the more pain you will feel because you are going deeper within your soul and having to address things you put aside so far ago that you cannot address. And often it always comes down to, like, abuse or something like that. Those are the things that really traumatize a kid. And that you don't want to think about, but you have to think about. Like, I never grieved my bullying since I was 21 years old, and I went back to my mindset of all the things the bullies did, and I experienced what they did, what they said, and I remember what they were saying to me, and I cried when they did it, as if I should have cried then, because I didn't cry at that point. I just
Right.
acted strong. So in my
Yep.
mindset, I don't know the difference between what's real and what isn't real. In my mindset, I'm 10 years old. He threw that rock at my head, and I cried. Instead, in my head at that time, I used to beat them up in my dreams. So I had this, like, kind of power over them. But the reality is, they were still bullying me in reality, and that was just a dream. So in my head, I go back and I cry and I grieve and I let that emotion out. I cry, I go through that emotion and I let it go and I forgive them. I forgave them. I forgave my father for the bullying, for the abuse, for example. He didn't abuse me. Speaking about general, you go in your mindset, you forgive that grandparent, you forgive the father, you forgive the mother, you forgive the bullies, you forgive everyone. So you grieve, you cry, you release that emotion, you forgive them. Because the only way you set yourself free is to forgive, but it's not for them, it's for you. And so now you've
Mm.
gone back, you've undone all the knots. Your rope has now gone from 8 meters with knots to 10 meters without knots, and now you have the extra. And that's the same as dealing with all the shit in your house, tidying your room, clearing the garage, forgiving everyone, paying your debts, collecting money that people owe you, doing all the stuff you need to do, you know, just stuff that you procrastinated, like going
Yeah.
in your drawers, ordering your files, binning all the files, ordering the files. When you've done all that, you've removed the past, you've undone the knots, you now can move forward. And every time you have something, rather than it getting in a knot, you address it. Every time somebody brings you something that you don't want, you say, I don't want that, please don't give it to me again. It's like a business restaurant. You sign up to all this stuff. Magazines come through the door, new cutlery, new cups, new glassware. They will keep sending you magazines for as long as you don't say, I don't want them anymore. And that
Mm-hmm.
essentially you running from dealing with that and calling them up, because it takes time calling them up and saying, look, I don't want glasses from you anymore. Stop sending me them. That takes fucking time. But that's a
Yeah.
knot. That's not going to knot in the rope anymore. You're now addressing it. So now that's a knot that would have happened, which hasn't happened. And I
Mm.
know from experience, I had to go through every fucking email, unsubscribe, all my
Yeah.
Facebook friends, remove, call up every single letter and leaflet and mail that came through the door, unsubscribe, call up every phone number, every spam cold call, unsubscribe. This took ages. I had to go in my room, bin everything, order all my files, go into the loft, bin everything, stuff in the loft, childhood photos, toys, pillows, fucking everything, Pokemon cards, right? Bullshit. That takes time. You got to sell them, you got to bin them. That took time. But what's important is when I did this to myself, it took a year. I then did it to my mum for a year, and I did it to my dad for a year. And no joke, I had to go back in time to when my mum was 16, when she was her happiest, find out when she was unhappy, address each issue. I took control of her life and my father's life, and I imagined what they were doing when they were 16. When did they become unhappy? And it was around the time when they had kids, and then the pressures of trying to keep the family together when you have kids. And then my dad
Mm-hmm.
started to sing. He means he was always gigging in the evening, which means my mum did have my dad to spend time with in the evening, which put pressure on the marriage, which put pressure on me. She took it out on me, she took it out on my dad. And then you start, and then that's what it all collapses. So I had to go back in time, understand that, heal my parents by getting them to communicate and express how they felt 10, 20 years ago. Because even though it's like I'm 28, that stuff is in their head. Their conversations, which they never discuss with each other, they still have those emotions in them. They still have those knots. They may not be, those knots may be a long way down that rope, but they're still there. And you cannot set yourself free until you undo every single fucking knot. If you truly want to set yourself free, it's like squeezing a towel until it's bone dry. If you can squeeze a little more, you need to squeeze harder. You need to squeeze that towel until it's completely dry. And there's no point starting the spiritual enlightenment journey unless you're going to go back potentially 30, 40, 50 years of your whole life and undo potentially hundreds, if not thousands of knots, which may take a year. You might have to remove your friends,
Oh
remove your
yeah.
parents from your life because they won't get it. They will not understand
No.
why you are binning everything in your house. And then your daughter's like, Mummy, why are you doing this? And the parents are like, you have such a negative effect on your daughter. How can you do this? Blah, 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 blah. They do not understand. And when I was healing my parents, they were like, why are you doing this to us? Why are you doing this to us? And in my mindset, I was just saying, keep undoing these knots, keep undoing these knots. And the deeper I got down that rope, the more I was bringing up things that were so deep within them that they were raging and angry. Like when I mentioned the word sex, for example, they hadn't had sex for many years. And so I mentioned the word frigid. I said to mum she was frigid. She went ballistic. She goes, I'm not frigid. I was like, interesting. Why, when I say frigid, do you go berserk? Sex, energy. So that means they were sexual when they were younger. So I had to understand, when did I last see them kiss? 15 years ago. Okay, so that means I would have been about 6, 7, 8 years old. When did I last see them be intimate? When I was on holiday. Okay, how old was I? 7. That was the last time they were intimate. So what happened around me when I was 7 years old that made them stop being intimate? So you keep going back in time and undoing all those knots, and eventually you get to the root cause of why this weed keeps coming back. I keep picking this weed. Why does it keep growing? And then you realize there's another weed under that rock that you didn't even know was there. So you lift
Mm-hmm.
up that rock. It might be heavy, but you've got to lift up that rock because if you don't, every year, weeds, weeds, weeds,
Oh
weeds,
yeah.
weeds. And you've got to make sure those weeds don't grow back. You've got to make sure, for example, I had to make sure my parents weren't arguing because you relapse back into those patterns. You address the issues, and all of a sudden the toilet seat's up. And it's not big of an issue because it takes time to develop new patterns. But you have to sort of be there and say, look, to my dad, why did you leave the toilet seat up? Do you not respect my mum's views? And then he says, okay, actually, I'm really sorry. And then he changed for good. And now he always puts the toilet seat down, and everyone is happy. I'm done.
Wow. Ooh. Ooh. That's a lot. I was going to ask you, Oliver, if you don't mind me bringing this up, but you had a very, very powerful episode, and I do not remember the young lady's name, but she gave you a card reading. Do you remember that lady's name?
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Some Riveria.
Yeah,
Riveria.
yeah. She was amazing. I mean, that whole episode really spoke to me, and I love the diversity of your episodes as well. I just wanted to compliment you on that.
Thanks.
When she read you, what were you able to take away from it, perhaps that you didn't know? Like, was she able to find more knots in your rope than you thought you had? And what were you able to do about that?
So I'm pretty confident that I have undone all my knots. However, as I said, sometimes you may de-weed your flower bed, you may monitor all the weeds, but just somewhere in your flower bed, there might be the smallest seed under a rock which hasn't created any weeds because it's not got enough light. But
Mm-hmm.
somehow the light gets in and it may come to surface. For example, I have healed all my stuff, but I'm very close to my family, and I know that when I say to my dad, I'm gonna sell out events around the world and make millions of pounds, and I know that, for example, he hopes that's real, but at the same time he grounds me, which means he's not going to be like, yes, you will, you are going to do that, because that's false hope. He's a realist, which means, okay, fantastic, but you haven't even got a fucking penny. You haven't got a pot to piss in, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
grounds me. So sometimes I like to say things of what I'm going to do to get a reaction to see if they've changed their mind. So rather than them saying, that's stupid, you're so crazy, these dreams are too big, I sometimes do try and poke the bear and just to see their mindset and if it shifted. So I'm going to do this. And rather than them going, what are you on about? What planet are you on? I sort of say it. So then I'm like, hoping they'd say, yeah, it sounds good. Um, so that's not really something which I need to heal because I do it aware of why I'm asking him. I'm seeing
Mm-hmm.
the progress of have they accepted the fact that I'm always going to be ambitious, or do they still wish that I was this normal person? So I'm not doing it like this. I'm not unaware when I'm asking. I'm fully aware that when I ask, I'm seeing if the reaction has changed. So when she was saying all that, yes, 5 years ago or so, or before I enlightened myself, I was that person where I spent so much time trying to tell my dad what I'm going to do to get a reaction, to get his approval, that I didn't go anywhere. And it was this battle about approval before action. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
what she was saying was like the biggest thing before I launched. Basically, it was the only thing that was holding back talking
Mm-hmm.
and not doing. I was telling him I was going to do, but I wasn't doing. So, that was a major thing in my life. Did she undo another knot? Honestly, probably not, but it did reinforce me not to have to consciously ask or tell my dad about doing these plans. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, as I said, I would sometimes just say, see if the reaction's different, I'm going to be doing this just to test the waters. What she then taught me is you don't really need to do that either
No.
because it
No.
doesn't really serve any purpose. Like it doesn't really change much. So that's what it enforced to me that you don't really need to say it at all. Like there's just it's like if you leave a banana on the side, it's probably going to be there if you go on holiday and come back. They need to keep
Right.
checking. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. 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 The water's not going to boil any faster by watching the pot.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 But
Cool,
yes.
cool. That was by the way, that was an amazing episode. What do you think, we talk about you are only going to appeal to the 1%. And I found that with my brand, I'm only appealing to the 1%. The majority of craft beer drinkers just want to drink the beer. They don't want to listen to podcasts about how the beer is brewed or why the label looks the way it does or any of that. So, for us being one percenters, is there anything that we can do to bring people into the fold, or do we have to just have blind faith that the vibration will bring them to us?
Well, first of all, you have to decide in life, are you going to be somebody who wants to make money or create a business, right? Business is all about ego and structure and branding and creating a customer service based and sort of serving them. And if they want this, you give it to them. Whereas making money, it's just whatever makes the most money. If you watch Dragon's Den, for example, you've got all these people coming up with the most amazing ideas, right? And they spend so much money, so many years on this amazing idea, so rare and unique that no one's going to compete, but yet there's no market. No one has a fucking clue about your little idea. No one's going to use it. What I'm saying is that life is built on certain foundations from the past. And you just have like a certain foundation in life that isn't going to change. You've got retail, you've got hospitality, you've got banks, you've got certain industries that pretty much aren't going to go anywhere. And coming up with a new industry is going to be hard because there's no market there. So, if, for example, you want to become rich, you've got to think, is, for example, creating a beer brand, whatever you're doing, likely to make me money, enough money that I become rich? The answer is yes. Keep going, fantastic. But if it isn't, it's more of a passion, and not every passion can make money. For example,
Right,
so many people love singing and they sing at gigs, they sing at festivals, and they enjoy the singing. And it's not really about the money because they've got a job, they're just singing because they like it. And
right,
then they want to become a big singer. So you got to ask yourself why. Often it comes down to attention, fame, and money. And so many people don't get that. And they chase the money and they lose their passion and understanding of where they came from in the first place, which is passion for music. So, not everybody who can sing can make money. Not everyone who creates a business can make money, right? So, the 1% of people, I think, are the people that have either found a trend before it's caught on and dominated that market, or they have joined the bandwagon of another kind of industry. For example, I'm somebody who wants to teach about empowerment and healing. It's not a flooded industry, but if you're good at your game, then you will kind of, over time, create a following and you'll keep creating a following. But if, for example, the beer industry is massive and it's too flooded, it might be hard to break through. But at the same time, for example, if gin with mint, for example, isn't very big, and you create a gin with mint brand, you might not be able to take it anywhere because there's not many people who drink gin with mint. But at the same time, if it catches on, you are ahead of your game. So it all comes down to this: money business. If it's about money, you go where the money's at, which means 99% of stuff that people do is about the money, but yet there's no industry. Everyone who makes money, hence why the rich get richer, is they invest in businesses that are already established, and those businesses either created their own market or they jumped the bandwagon before the market was flooded. That's why they all do real estate, they all do finance, they all do shares and stocks. Unfortunately, it comes down to, can somebody make money in their niche? Is the
right.
market big enough and are they good enough at dominating? Sadly, if you can't dominate or if the market isn't big enough, you're just somebody who has a passion and wants to be rich. And if it's about the money, you've got to find an industry that can make the money.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just the singer who enjoys singing at a pub who's never going to be signed by clientele, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
now you're limited because you've got passion like money, which is 1%. And if you want to make the money, you need to have enough money in the first place. Often you need like 50 to 100,000 quid, and then it takes like 5 years to grow. So now you have to understand, okay, well, is it easy just getting a job and saving up or trying to get this business out? If reality is doesn't have enough audience, or if I can't dominate, it's not going to grow. It's just if you can have a seed, if you've not got the sun or the water, it's not going to grow. If you've not got enough space or the water, it's not going to grow. If you've not got enough sun and space, it's not going to grow. All these elements are needed. Temperature, sun, space, quality of soil. It is all. It's all. It's all crucial, and it's not just as simple as it's really complex life. And as I said, I have all the knowledge, and I'm 28, and I've just found my path. 28, 27 years later, I've always wanted to be a talker. I don't know how to get there. I used to have a quote when I was growing up. I'm not a businessman. I just can't stop making money. Because if I needed money, I could make it. But there was no business. There was no structure. There was no strategy. There was no. It was just make money here and there.
Mhm.
And I realized that, I used to tell people my business. I have a business when there wasn't a fucking business. It was just me and my phone selling stuff on eBay. And they used to say, "How's the business going? Is it going well?" Yeah, really well. I was lying to them. I was just selling a few bits on furniture. I was lying to myself. So the my ego was was what was getting in the way of me making money
Mhm.
because I had to
Mhm.
drop this ego about my business and my brand and all my friends know I'm doing this. And then when I end up shutting it down and not selling on eBay, they'd be like, "Oh, what happened? Did you fail?
Right.
Told you you'd fail. See, I knew it wasn't going well." And my ego kicks in. I can't face that. See, it was just all a load of bollocks. So you keep this belief of this brand going and it's not making any money. So I realized you're either a businessman or you're making money. You
Mhm.
can't drop and change because business is about ego and about like you've essentially got to swallow your pride. If it's about making money, you've just got to do what you have to do to get the money. Whereas if it's about business and brand, you're careful of what you say, who you say, don't let people down. Yeah, if you're a restaurant, McDonald's, I'll sell spaghetti. Are you vegan as well? Oh, I'll do some vegan food. Oh, you want some salad? Yeah, we'll do salad. You're serving everyone. You're pleasing everyone. And you've got no structure, you've got no brand, you've got nothing. You're just
Mhm.
bowing down to everyone to make them happy. And that's an
Right.
ego thing of just like kind of just being the person everyone likes. For example, I used to sell furniture for people just because I wanted to do a good thing and I wasn't making any money. And it was almost like I was selling the furniture just in case they told their friend. So I was
Mhm.
not making any money. I wanted to please them. I wanted to get that like, oh, he's
Ooh.
really good at selling stuff, and I was not making any money. And I realized
Right.
this is about my fucking ego. This is not about money. It's supposed to
Yeah.
be about money. And then
Yeah.
that's when I realized I need to make a choice. Ego, oh, everyone loves Oliver. He always sells stuff. I'm not making any fucking money. So I need to shut it all down and start it again. Now
Mhm.
it's about the money. And I've got to go where the money is because life is made up of money. And therefore, you need to have money if you want to live a life where you want a house which costs 100 grand. Unless you want to go to the bank and borrow the money, you need to suck cock to get that money. It's true. I thought about that.
Hey, we all have that, especially now.
Yeah,
You're gonna
literally.
have hoes coming out the woodwork.
Yeah, I fucked a guy for 30 quid when I was in debt.
Oh, that was a good laugh. That was a good laugh. Wow. I don't know. Sometimes your conversations just floor me. They leave me speechless. I also wanted to commend you about another another episode that you did with a guy. I think he's from California. He said it was from Santa Cruz. The way he was talking, it seemed like he didn't live too far from me, but he was talking about um, the Rona and having to live off the grid. Fuck it, should you go off the grid anyway? That was an amazing episode. It really got a fire under my ass, and I think it's a good thing because a lot of us, we're stuck in that survival mode. We're not thinking about the future. We'll do anything. We're ready to do that. We're ready to get on our knees, But having your own space, having your own land, having your own property, even if it's a tiny house, even if it's a trailer, even if it's an RV, I think these things are becoming so much. These are the things that people always should have been thinking about, but you get stuck in the rat race. You don't think about it. Is ownership and having something for yourself, and I think it's more important now than ever. And I just wanted to commend you on that episode. That changed a lot for me. And then the fact that he was actually willing to talk about, alpha males and beta males, which is kind of a sore subject. It's not something that a lot of people talk about as the differentiation and testosterone, drive, motivation, knowledge, awareness, desire for education, maturity. is such a lacking thing in our culture, and it really seeps itself into everything in business and family. So that was a great episode. So um, you got to, I would love for you to hook me up with that guy because he was so amazing. Do you remember his name?
Yeah, was it the one who said that his wife is similar to him and how she can just pack up and like he lived in New York or something and how he could just pack up and go out into the just travel into like the mountains or something? I don't know.
I loved that. That was amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just come up on my Instagram. TNTL podcast.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Send me the link to that. I got to meet this guy. He's from California. It sounded
Episode
like it.
36 it was. But
Yeah.
yeah, Andy kind of gets sort of serious and discusses coronavirus, living off the grid, and much more. That's what he put on his thing. So yeah, that was a long time ago. That was about 30 episodes ago. I'm on my 70th one now.
You're going so fast. I love it. I love it. And you know what? I like that you're going fast because your catalog of information is gonna it's applicable to everyone. So keep doing it. It's amazing. I have to admit, you put them out so often, I can't listen to everyone, but the spirit leads and it guides me to the episodes I do need to listen to, and the ones you have are amazing. I'm so grateful that you're doing this. I feel like you're everything that I've had to find in different pieces in different places, but you're all compiled into one show because you
Absolutely.
cover so many different topics. You know, you're not just business, you're not just romance, you're not just finance, you're not just education. Like you're all of these things, you know. So thank you for being a part of our lives, Oliver.
Thank you very much. So you know TED Talks, right? He puts on events. I
Hmm.
will eventually be putting on my own events, Talk with Oliver events, where I will fly in speakers, for example, to speak at an event. That's my ultimate, my vision to not sell. I honestly don't think at this moment in time, knowing what I know, that I could sit there telling people they can create this amazing life, if they just believe in law of attraction bollocks. If I know full well that 97% are desperate for some change and they're going to make me rich and they're not going to do anything, I don't think I have that. Like, I believe that people who teach all that stuff, they haven't, it's almost like they feel like the system let them down growing up. So I'm going to not have any conscience selling you the system. Whereas I
Ooh.
have gone past that. So now I can't sell something that I know isn't going to work. So rather than selling packages for 50 quid or whatever, the tickets will just be 50 quid. And I can just stand there and talk, and audiences can ask me questions. And that will be so more valuable for everyone in that room because each person will have 50 different new pieces of knowledge from other people, probably also questioning the same thing. That's more
Mhm.
knowledgeable than selling them this bullshit package about law of attraction and you just have to believe in all that nonsense. Because although, it does work, some people they can't get out of their pattern. And I
Yeah.
have I have I have supreme collective knowledge of stuff from excessive thinking my whole life. All the stuff that I know, it's not stuff that I was taught necessarily. I had to work all this shit out. And then
Hmm.
I found people on YouTube affirming my knowledge that I was always right. And when everyone said I was wrong, I was right. So all my stuff is from working out stuff. Like when I think there a god and ghosts? How do the ghost exists? I've had to work this out through excessive thinking. It's not stuff that you can just learn. Like I tell people, the stuff that I learn, you won't find online because I've worked this out in my head, and I know that people haven't done the amount of thinking that I've done on the stuff that I've thought about, and I can guarantee that. So yeah, and at the same time, I'm no different to any human. I have the same brain. It's just that I had the brain energy to work things out that you may not have had time to think about, or the brain activity, or the knowledge. Because as I said, you need a certain amount of knowledge in the first place to question more knowledge. And fortunately for me, I had that through my dad at a very early age. He knew everything, he taught me everything. And it was a blessing and a curse because I knew all this stuff, but no one else did. And it was like, well, why do I know this and you don't? Am I right? Am I wrong? And I wanted to die. Now I'm older. I realize my purpose is to just teach and heal as many people as possible only because I like the reaction. It's not because, I like the reaction when someone says you're fucking incredible. I just like the reaction. It's like a nice piss my mum off. I just like the reaction. If I just want the reaction. I'm a child. I am a fucking child.
Let me ask you this. Getting it back to the very first question that you asked me, how do you increase energy? Now, you said the term brain energy. Like, for all the rest of us out here listening to your show, I'm just going to be devil's advocate and act like I don't know what anything right now. What is some of the things, techniques you use to increase your brain energy, Oliver?
So I will tell you the things that I did and I have been doing since I started to do them, right? Diet. Okay. I live on a keto diet. Now, not strictly, because I'm not all about, it's not about that. Okay. If you're a vegetarian, you can't eat meat. I enjoy life, right? But my main diet is keto, which is simply just as much natural foods as possible. So keto, it's like olives, walnuts, Brazil nuts, macadamia nuts, salmon, egg, dark chocolate, and coffee. Natural
Hmm.
stuff. So diet is crucial. I live off filtered water. I drink 2 liters a day. Water, 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 water. I don't drink really sugary drinks, and if I do, I
Hmm.
feel like shit, and I wish I hadn't done it.
Right.
Right. So I
Yeah.
pretty much live off 2 liters of water. I walk. Obviously, I'm human. Sometimes I can't be asked, but I try to walk at least an hour a day. So I walk in the afternoon and I walk in the evening for half an hour each time. So exercise. You don't need to go to the gym and run miles, lift weights. Just walk, right? Diet, water, sleep. I never set an alarm. I never set an alarm. I wake up naturally. If, for example, I have done 3 podcasts today, which I'm doing, I might need 9.5 hours sleep. If I've done fuck all day, I might need 7.
Hmm.
Waking up naturally when your brain has had enough sleep is crucial. I go to bed at the same time every night, so I fall asleep, so I get tired at the same time, but I wake up when I wake up naturally. Okay, so waking up is so important. Um, not sleeping with curtains, letting the sun come in when it does, and waking
Mm.
up your body naturally, letting the sun
Yes.
get to the back of your eyes naturally. I don't sleep with a pillow. Posture. When you sleep with a pillow, your posture is all bent, which means you can't get as much oxygen in your lungs, and everything's all squashed. So I
Oh
sleep
yeah.
without a pillow. So now my skeleton stretches and my back is just flat, and my rib cage expands, and I can get more oxygen in, so I get less out of breath and I can walk more. So exercise,
Beautiful.
sun, no curtains, no pillow, diet, keep it natural, keto, vegan, whatever, right? Water, sleep. I never set an alarm. Happiness.
Yeah.
I try to find the. I try to. If somebody dies, I say, well, he's with Michael Jackson in heaven now. Maybe you can do a gig. It's a negative thing, correct? But you have to counteract every negative with a positive, because otherwise you're in a negative state. And
Oh.
death is part of life. So why should it be bad? It's not
Right.
bad. It's just
Right.
fucking life, right? So counteracting every negative with a positive. Happiness, laughing as much as possible. I laugh as much as I can. I'm childish. I don't give a shit. I find the funny side to everything. Listening to music all the time. When I have a shower, I put on Tomorrowland music, like proper, like high vibration frequencies. Tomorrowland. Every person, no matter how old you are, can connect to club music. We were all children. We were all teenagers. We all went clubbing. It's a universal music: blues, swing, jazz, rap, pop, metal, different genres, but club music, everyone has danced in a club. It takes you
Yeah.
back to childhood, fucking women, drinking, having a good time. It makes you feel good. Often those frequencies of Tomorrowland, David Guetta, Avicii are all in a high vibration, so your body will start to vibrate at that vibration. Whereas you listen to Adele, someone like me, it's all fucking depressing, right? You listen to
Yeah.
heavy metal, wah, depressing, negative music. So music.
Right.
What else is there? I've done 100 videos of all the things that I do. 3 years ago, when I was trying to come to America, I did 100 videos, one every day for 100 days, and each video is me telling people what I did to get to where I was. So apart from all the stuff that I've said, is there any more? I don't care about anything. I don't care if I die. I don't care about anything, because if you care, you attach yourself emotionally to something, and if you don't get the outcome expected, it
You
feels
lose your
shitty.
mind.
And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
well, why should it be shitty? The outcome is not predictable anyway. It's just what it is. So don't care about anything. My father used to say, "Well, you should care," and I realized he wanted me to care because he cared. Not caring is a good thing. He said it was a bad thing. It's only because I didn't care what he had to say that I thought not caring was a bad thing. It's not. You can't give a fuck about anything in life because if you do and you don't get the outcome you wanted, you're gonna feel shitty. And also just oh yeah, love, serving people, helping people. As I said, are you still there? The camera's gone
Oh
off.
yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Hold
Yeah. Camera's gone off. So serving people, helping people, asking my neighbours if they need a hand, asking my family if they need a drink or something to eat, asking my friends if they need something. If you serve, you get people's gratitude back to you. And they say, thank you, Oliver. You're so great, Oliver. I say, I know. Like, I just love that cycle of positive energy coming back. But the secret is to give it out first. Otherwise, you're expecting, the flower to grow without planting the seed. You've got to plant the seed. That's pretty much all the things that I do to make me feel good. Was that your question answered? I can't remember.
I think that it is an absolute great list to start off with. I love it. I love it. Especially about the water, especially about the music. All of these things are and once again, like right now, I'm even at a place in this quarantine where I'm reaching that level where even television is not satisfying to me. I can't, after watching, hearing what I'm hearing about Netflix and Bill Gates and Barack Obama and all these entities, ABC, Disney, all these entities that are controlling our mind through the media, the entertainment. We talked about going back and untying those knots. How many of those knots came from false information from the media? I mean, those are knots that we got to untie on a whole different rope. I mean, there's so many. But I used to be a huge, huge movie buff, TV buff. I got this even my tattoos are entertainment related. This tattoo is in the Nine Inch Nails font. This tattoo is a reference to Game of Thrones. I love entertainment. I love movies. I love HBO. But I'm now starting to see that even that is pouring toxicity into the soil. It's pouring toxicity into the flower bed. So getting off TV and inserting the positive vibration and replacing it is so important. So I loved what you said about music. Um, Music is very powerful. Drumming in ancient cultures is how you summon spirits. Think about that. And then you think about, like you said, heavy metal, rap, just full of violence, toxicity, self hatred, hatred for the world. How can you become a millionaire if you're listening to content like that? You can't. I mean, I don't think you, I mean, I guess some people have become millionaires selling that content, but consuming that content is detrimental. And happiness is the number one money maker. And if I could just bring it full circle one more time to Jim Fortin, he talks about you have to make yourself happy. You cannot attract money. You cannot attract success if you are absolutely miserable all the time. And once again, there's that push and pull with the law of attraction. You can have the best intentions. You can be very ambitious and very creative, but if you've got that ugliness in your soul and that self-hatred, that misery in your soul, you're not going to attract the money. So if we want to make that money, we need to be happy and we need to keep ourselves happy. We need to protect our bubble, protect our energy, protect our circle of influence, protect ourselves from just like you said, you have to throw back positive every time you get something negative, and that's just to break it even. you know that's just to break it even. So I love what you said. Yeah, stay happy. That's how we're going to get paid.
um, so the thing, right? It's not that media are purposely controlling us, right? What happens is that if you throw a dog a bone, it'll bring it back to you, and he's looking at you, and so you throw it again, and he brings it back to you. The media will put out what people want, right? If the
Yes.
people think that they wanted milk, media are going to provide milk. If people think they want Coke, the media will provide Coke. And if they think they wanted a tea, the media will provide tea. It all goes back to at what point did people decide they wanted milk, tea, or Coke? That's what it comes down to, and you have to go back so long ago, right? Where you might have had one media network who said you should drink milk, and then that generation of people many years ago started milk company milk. And now the children want to drink the milk, and now the media sell stories about the milk. And now everyone keeps drinking milk, but what nobody realised is that milk actually is bad for you. So
Yeah.
now everyone wants milk, companies are selling milk, everyone wants milk, sell me milk. But you don't
Mm-hmm.
understand, your great grandmother didn't know milk was bad for you. Otherwise, she wouldn't have told your grandmother, and she wouldn't have told your mother, and your mother wouldn't have told you. So we are throwing that bone to the dog, and that dog's bringing it back. But what you haven't understood is that where did that dog learn to bring that bone back? Are trying to control us. They're providing what we want. And what we have wanted is stuff over the years that no one really knows why we wanted it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but this thing about media control is about people are trying to gain control of themselves. And once you try and gain control of yourselves, you notice when someone's trying to control you. For example, if I said, let's go out tonight for a drink, because you didn't say, let's go out for a drink tonight, it's me trying to influence you and control you. So you say, no, I'm okay, thank you. It's not control. I'm just asking, do you want to go for a drink? But it's seen as somebody's trying to influence your thoughts because you're not saying, let's go for a drink yourself. So it's not me there trying to control people. It's you are taking control of yourself and you are becoming aware of other people trying to sell you something, trying to influence you. And it's seen as a threat, like someone's trying to control you, but they're not. And my dad used to tell me this when I was saying how the media and the Illuminati and the governments, they're all trying to control people. He basically said the same thing as I'm telling you now. No one's trying to control you. It's all in my head. I was trying to gain control of myself. And so now I'm aware of how many people are being influenced by adverts, media, TV, friends. Everything is about influence. But it's not controlling me. It's just people suggest, people say you should do, and people follow. And it was me
Mm-hmm.
saying, no, I'm not doing that. I was taking
Right.
control of myself. I saw the adverts and the subliminal messaging behind adverts and I was aware that that's why people go and buy a Nike pair of shoes, and I decided not to. And one
Right.
person said to me is, yes, they're not trying to control you, you're just aware of how they are selling, but you have a choice to buy or not to buy. Most people, they'd be like, oh, that's nice, and they go buy it. But you have a choice. Now you know this, you can be like, I can get it or not and it becomes a choice, but it's not they're controlling. Media aren't controlling people. Governments aren't controlling people. They are feeding the birds what the birds want, and the birds want bread.
Right.
And they've always known bread because many years ago, people used to give them bread. And the generations
Right.
of people that came up with the bread are dead because that was like hundreds of years ago. So now no one knows where this thing about giving ducks bread comes from. I ask you this: where did people start to feed ducks bread? Who bread's bad for ducks. So when did people start giving ducks bread?
That's a
Everywhere
good
you go,
question.
people give ducks bread. But
I don't
actually,
know.
why do we give ducks bread? It fucks up their digestive system, and that's my point. Media will provide what people are asking for. The ducks quack for bread because so many generations of ducks have had bread, and that's all they know. And it's no one's fault. It's just fucking evolution. And
Right.
it's up to the wise person to become wise and teach his disciples around him those who wish to learn too. Hence why you teach those you want to learn and sell the package to those three people and don't sell the package to 97 of them because you're wasting your time. It may make you some
Right.
money, but it might not make you feel good. And it all comes down to feeling and happiness rather than money. And would I feel happy with millions in the bank selling all my bullshit packages to these people who I know have shitty lives? Would it make me good? Probably not. What made me feel good is saying, don't buy this because you're not going to change your life. You're useless. You're not going to change your life. Don't buy it. That made me feel good. I might be like, say, 100 grand short. That made me feel good. But I'll make it back
Mm-hmm.
up through selling to the people that would change. Because then they
Yeah.
come back in time and say, look, I've made 1 million quid. Here's 100 grand. Thank you for the time you gave me. I said, thank you very much. That 100 grand was the money I lost from not selling that weak person that package. It always comes
Exactly.
back. Hence why
Right.
feeling comes
Right.
first.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? You are, you know, you're made, I'm sorry to tell you this. It's a compliment. You are made for camera. You're made for camera. You're very expressive. You're very to the point. You have a wonderful voice. You speak in a pattern that you're a good storyteller. Yeah, I don't see you as someone who's going to sell books and packages and programs and things that are in written form, because I don't think you're going to reach as many people. And I think your personality, your heart, your warmth, and your compassion is what is infectious, and that's what's going to sell you. So
I agree.
I'm ready to see. I'm ready for the Oliver talks. Can't wait.
It's talk with Oliver.
No, I was just making a play on words like TED Talks. You'd be
I know,
Oliver
and
Talks.
I thought somebody said I should have called it Oliver Talks, but even though I do talk, I don't know why I chose Talk with Oliver, because it's like a talk with me, almost like it's a guest. If it's Oliver Talks, it's just me talking to people, whereas I'm all about talking with someone because you can share an experience and then others can still learn, as opposed to just me talking to myself. I don't know, but yeah, Talk with Oliver.
I can't wait to talk with you next time. We have to do this again. I love doing this. You put so much fire under my ass, and you really every episode that I listen to changes the tide for me just a little bit more. So I'm so grateful that we found each other.
Absolutely, I agree. Are we ending this now or?
Yeah, let me yeah, I mean shit, now I'm looking at my floors. I'm already ready to clean up my room for the day.
Right, we'll quickly plug all the things you want to plug now.
Okay. Well, once again, my name is Jenny. I am Jenny, the Queen of Beers. I am a avid beer lover. I have a podcast called Beer Talk Radio. It is the only craft beer podcast in the business section. My podcast is not necessarily containing the same type of content that is in your show, Oliver, but I do think that thank you for giving me the opportunity to show your listeners just a little slide of my personality, a little slice of it. Um, I'm very, very much into mindset and positivity, treating people with respect, creating amazing guest experiences in hospitality and in the beer industry. I myself am a chef, and I love what I do. It's not a it's not a big money maker, but that's why Oliver's in my life as well as other people, because I am shooting for the stars, reaching for more. I hope that your listeners are able to do that. You can, if you're interested in hearing my show, you can find it on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and any other podcast listening platform. It is once again called Beer Talk Radio. So just throw that in the search. If you'd like to visit my website, it is www.beertalkradio.net. On my website is kind of the central hub of everything I do. So you can find the audio episodes as well as a lot of the video content that I have. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Um, it is also Beer Talk Radio. Looking for more subscriptions so that I can begin to monetize that. I do all kinds of fun stuff. If I can't make you money, I'm at least going to make you laugh. I talk shit. I'm funny. I'm silly. I do chug videos. I always try to capture everyone through humor and make craft beer not such a snobby, nerdy niche market, but kind of open that up to everyone. So trust me, my videos are funny. You'll see a more humorous side of Jenny the Beer Queen if you check out my YouTube channel.
Beer Talk Radio, sponsored by beer. Okay, right, I'm gonna press stop, wait there, and I will say goodbye, okay?
Okay.